everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to make pure maple syrup, starting from sap from the tree to our finished maple syrup product. Before we get started, let's talk about what maple syrup is and where does it come from. Maple syrup is made from sap from maple trees. Maple trees use this sap to grow new buds in the spring. Don't worry, when you tap your tree, the tree is not harmed at all. Maple syrup season usually starts in early spring, when the temperatures during the day rise above freezing and it stays freezing at night. This all depends on where you live. When the temperatures rise above freezing during the day, the sap thaws and is able to go to the rest of the tree. When the tree takes up those nutrients, you are able to collect the sap from the hole that you've drilled. So before heading out, make sure you have on the proper attire. I have on my muck boots and my maple syrup earrings. Once you find the perfect maple tree, it's time to get started. Let me show you what you're going to need to get started. First, you're going to need a drill to drill a hole in your tree. After you've drilled your hole, you will need to insert this tap and gently pound it in with a rubber mallet. After you have your tap in the tree, it's time to cut your tubing to the proper length. Then, you're going to need a bucket and a lid to collect your sap in. Now I'm going to show you how to drill a hole in the tree. Make sure you go up at a slight angle and you only go about 2 inches deep. We have this marked on our drill with some tape. Now I'm going to show you how to insert the tap in the tree. Place your tap in the hole and gently pound it into place with a mallet. Now let's hurry up and put our tube on so that we can collect this sap in our bucket. We're going to take our cut hose and put it over the spout. Once the tube is on our tap, I will cut the hose to the proper length and put it in our bucket. I'm going to take the tube and put it in our bucket. Make sure the lid is on nice and tight. And now we wait and collect sap. Now you've successfully tapped your first maple tree. Let's see what some of our buckets that have been out over the weekend have collected so far. Let's take the lid off and see how much we've gotten so far. Whoa! Look at all that sap in there. You're probably thinking to yourself, hey, that doesn't look like maple syrup. Well, this is because the sap is clear, colorless, and tasteless when it comes out of the tree. This is why we boil it down, to get off the excess water so that all we're left with is the sugar from the tree. To get our sap back to the farm, we use our side-by-side with a 65-gallon tank on the back. Let me go show you how we suck it up. Once we've collected all of our sap from the trees, we're able to get our sap from the bucket into the tank using a vacuum pump. Let me show you how it works. Once we've collected all of our sap and our jug is full, it's time to head back to the farm and put our sap in the evaporator. Let's go! Welcome to our sugar shack. This is where we make the sap turn into pure maple syrup. Come on in and I'll show you our evaporator. This is our maple syrup evaporator. This is what we use to make our sap turn into syrup by boiling off the excess water. Now let's talk about some parts of this maple syrup evaporator and let's learn how it works. This is where we load our wood to keep our fire going. As you can see, it is insulated with brick to keep it nice and hot. The smoke from our firebox then leaves the building through our chimney here. This is our maple syrup thermometer. The 0 represents 212 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the temperature at which water boils. The 7 signifies 219 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the temperature at which your sap becomes maple syrup. syrup boils at a higher temperature than water due to its sugar content. For this reason, you want to continue boiling your sap until it reaches a temperature of 219 degrees Fahrenheit. As you can see, our sap has started boiling. Look at all this evaporation that's coming off. As the evaporation comes off, we're getting closer and closer to our final product of maple syrup. Our sap is already a few shades darker. You can look closer at this cup and see that it's already starting to change color. It's still not done yet. We'll check back with you in a few hours to show you how it's changed. As the water evaporates, we add more sap from a holding tank. This pipe connects to a tank outside where we store all of the sap that we've collected from our trees. Here's a storage tank that we use for the sap that we've collected. This year, my family has tapped 94 trees. Each tap can expect to bring in between 5 and 15 gallons of sap. So we're expecting to collect 1,000 gallons of sap this year. Did you know it takes 40 gallons of sap to make just 1 gallon of syrup? The pan we are using is called a divided pan. During the boiling process, we continuously add sap to the pan so that we maintain a 2-inch depth at all times, even as the water is evaporating off. When the new sap is added, the sap that has been boiling is pushed further into the channels because it has a higher concentration of sugar. Over time, this creates a density gradient. This is why the sap closer to the camera seems darker. It is the closest to being finished maple syrup. This is our Murphy cup and hydrometer. These are both tools that we use to know when our maple syrup is done cooking. First, in order to get started, I will pour our maple syrup into the Murphy cup. Next, I will place in the hydrometer to see where it floats. We know our maple syrup is done when the reading on the hydrometer matches the reading on our Murphy cup dial. This is our maple syrup bottler. Before we bottle our syrup, we always make sure to filter it 2 times. Additionally, when you bottle syrup, it's important to make sure that it's 180 degrees so that it is sterile and sanitary. After so much time collecting sap and letting it boil down, it's finally time to bottle our syrup. Now we put our cap on, make sure it's nice and tight, and put it with the rest of our finished maple syrup bottles. Now that we have our maple syrup bottled, it's time to put on our label. Now everyone can see that we have our Klover Rose Farm pure maple syrup ready to go. The last and most exciting part of making maple syrup is finally getting to taste your final product. Let's pour on some maple syrup and try these pancakes. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned a lot about maple syrup and how we make it. Enjoy!